good morning, good early afternoon for some of you. Thanks for attending. It's been a few months. I hope that you all are keeping safe during the pandemic and that you had a chance to at least enjoy something of a summer holiday. The topic that Carlos mentioned that I'm going to cover today is all around what we're doing in day two operations, but specifically around something that we're calling Nexus Dashboard. You may have been hearing this term pop up, Nexus Dashboard, and I wanted to take a moment or take the opportunity of this session to tell you what exactly is Nexus Dashboard. Is it something different from the day two operations stack that we were talking about just like a few months ago, or is it something entirely different? So some of this will be roadmap. So my intention here is to kind of talk a little bit about Nexus Dashboard, what it is, where it's going, but then finish up with some roadmap. And I'll also do a demo because I feel like the demo helps kind of cement visually exactly where it is we're going, and I hope that you see the value. But because it's a roadmap, there's always the legal disclaimer that anything I talk about that doesn't actually, you can't buy right now, like a roadmap, it could change, features could get added or dropped, all that kind of stuff could change. So especially because we're all partners here, I mentioned that importantly because what we want to avoid is looking too far into the future and making promises to our customers, and then for some reason it happens that we can't deliver that feature and the customer says, well, I've been waiting for a year, now I'm upset, right? So just be careful when we talk about roadmap. So I just kind of wanted to set a baseline. I'll try to go fast through this kind of stuff, but when we look at our portfolio and how we kind of just simplify what we're offering to our customers, I mean, obviously we have the infrastructure level. That's the Nexus platform. That's the hardware. That's the boxes with the blinking lights on the front, right? And we know all about that. When it comes time to actually deploy, operate, configure, automate, all those kinds of things, you have the choice of either using ACI through APIC, or let's not forget, DCNM is available for those customers running NXOS. And I sort of put an underline on that point because while I love ACI and I do most of my work with ACI, that doesn't mean that every single customer on earth wants ACI, and that's okay. We still want to offer compelling solutions for the customers that wish to remain on Classic NXOS and treat them equally in the sense that the choices that you have in terms of tools and capabilities is as close to parity as possible, so that whichever way your customer wants to go, we've got something good for them is the thinking. But then at the top, on top of all of that, is really what we're calling the day two operations level. So we're calling assurance and insights, but it's really a set of operational tools and capabilities that helps you manage all of this stuff underneath it, or helps you optimize or troubleshoot. And this is where Nexus Dashboard is sitting at this level, right? So we know that Nexus 9K and things like ACI have been out for 5-6 years now. But I would have to say that, I have the opportunity to sit on a lot of customer advisory boards and feedback from customers and partners like yourself. And they, for the last number of years, the biggest request for us has been, give me a set of tools and capabilities to collect telemetry and make sense of the telemetry, because we always talk about the greatness of like what ACI can do or what Nexus 9K can do, but then after it's up and running and installed, then what do I do to get the most out of it, right? So this is where this top layer has become quite important for us to meet the requirements of what our customers are demanding from us, is give us useful tools, right? So let me advance off of this. So this is where Nexus Dashboard, as it is playing. So really, in a nutshell, Nexus Dashboard is a platform for hosting a number of different applications, from multi-site orchestrator to network assurance engine, and additionally, we'll be able to host third-party tools like applications that you could write yourself, or customers can write, or other third-party companies could write that don't have a Cisco logo. That's perfectly fine. But Nexus Dashboard will be this one place that brings them all together. Now, hold your thoughts, because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, wait a second, this sounds a lot like the services engine, and you're not wrong. But I'll get into to this where we're going with this. So the dashboard really is this. I have this fancy marketing slide. It works with ACI, it works with DCNM and NXOS. We want to have the dashboard be able to work on-prem or in the cloud, or be able to collect and analyze telemetry in the cloud. We want to be able to collect telemetry from multiple sources, but we want to bring it all together under one kind of understanding, and that's the Nexus dashboard. Like I said, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, this is kind of like a slick marketing slide that doesn't tell me anything about what Nexus dashboard really is, and I would not disagree with you. So quit the marketing. What is Nexus dashboard really? So we know about the current state of our day 2 operations, which is basically the application services engine, but on top of that, running applications. Doesn't even have to be the service engine if you're talking about NAE, but we know about, well, I hope that you know about the Network Insights application pair. We had Network Insights resources, and we had a different app answering or solving a different set of challenges called Network Insights Advisor. So those two things were under sort of the Network Insights umbrella. And those have been out for a while. And then there's also other apps like Network Assurance Engine, which is currently version 5. So this one has been out for a number of years. And then, of course, Multi-Site Orchestrator, which we know is a set of virtual machines or an application that manages multi-site deployment. So we've got all these apps out there, right? And they all do their things, independently really well. And most of these applications, while some of them you can run as virtual machines, some of them you can run directly in APIC in a limited capacity, but they're really mostly designed to run on a platform, like a hardware cluster called the Application Services Engine. So this is sort of the first fundamental point, is the App Service Engine kind of becomes the foundation for all of these apps. But as we look at how this whole sort of kit of moving parts is coming together, we realize that all of these apps do what they do independently. They do their functions well independently, but you would start to see as you use these apps that there's a lot of areas where if we could share information and telemetry and analysis between them, we could gain something more, right? And this is one of the things that we're thinking about in terms of what we're calling Nexus Dashboard. The other thing is, if you think about these applications, they tend to be singular in the sites that they're collecting telemetry from or managing. Maybe not MSO, but when you think about Network Insights, resources, and advisors, like you point that towards one, say, ACI fabric, and just one. If you wanted to have a second fabric, well, you got to rinse and repeat and do it again. Technically that's how you would do it, but is that the best way forward? So another desire is we want to be able to collect and analyze telemetry from multiple fabrics, multiple sources to one central dashboard, not multiple central dashboards, each running independent apps, right? You see it's a little bit sort of spread out. And then beyond all of that, the number one piece of feedback that we get when we talk about day 2 operations is unify the user experience, interconnect everything. So like I have a common data lake where I can share and analyze information and present a more holistic view in a single view or a single tool rather than a whole bunch of different tools, each doing their own thing, if that makes any sense. And make it easy to consume. Make it easy for me to use this stuff, because we all know that any vendor, in the data center, it's a complicated world with all these protocols and scalabilities and virtual, physical containers. I mean, it's a lot of moving parts. So anything that can make the user experience easier would be an attractive thing. So we agree with the feedback that we've heard, certainly. And so we're taking the day 2 operations suite, the independent applications running on the services engine, and we're calling it Nexus Dashboard. But it's not just a name change. It's actually an evolution of how we're constructing and bringing these tools together in a common thing. So the first foundation that I want to start is Nexus Dashboard is built to run on top of the application services engine. And I'm sure you know this, but for people who might be new to it, it's a hardware cluster. It's a minimum of 3 UCS servers that we can scale up to 6 or more as you go bigger and need to do more sites and more telemetry. But it's physical hardware, but it's got a purpose-built software package on there. So it's an appliance, right? You don't have to build it yourself, right? And this is same platform for ACI or NXOS. In fact, what you'll be excited to hear is we can have the same platform, the same single cluster for both, right? So if you've been looking at the day two operations suite like Network Insights and all that, we're currently having a software release for the service engine, and the current release is 1.1.3. I don't know if you really care about that, but what's happening is the service engine software itself is now evolving into what we're calling Nexus Dashboard. So the next release, which is coming end of this calendar year, will be Nexus Dashboard 2.0. So just to kind of baseline set, the service engine software, we're taking that code base, doing some additions and some more integrations and changing the name to Nexus Dashboard. That's the first principle. It's more than that, but I just kind of wanted to start with understanding the service engine. So why are we doing this? What is this service engine getting me, and where is Nexus Dashboard going to make my life easier? And it might help to have a high-level architectural understanding of how we've constructed these applications. Well, the first thing to note is they're all container-based applications, right? Which is good. I mean, that's a modern distributed microservices application approach that is very, very popular these days. And so all of these things are based on containers. In the early evolutions of these applications, they were all standalone Docker containers with their own set of services. And what I mean are services like a Kafka messaging bus, Elasticsearch, firmware API gateways, authentication services. All of these apps were made up of many different containers underneath. But each app had their own set of services. So effectively what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way is we were duplicating services over and over and over again for each new application that was coming along, because they were all being developed kind of independently from each other to solve a different set of problems. So what we did when we brought out the ASE is we realized that there are economies of scale to be gained if we moved from just a plain vanilla Docker container setup to a Kubernetes orchestrated sort of cluster underneath it, where all of the applications could begin to share common services, right? So that's a nice, a more efficient way to do this, because if each of the services has their own Kafka messaging bus, it would be a smarter idea if we had one messaging bus that all of the applications could use. And furthermore, if you work in DevOps, you start to say, well, if they all share a messaging bus, that's quite interesting, because now we can actually share messages with each other and figure out a bigger and better way to understand our environment. So that's what's happening is and this began with the ASE. This is how the ASE is built right now, where we've got the services and we're sharing as many of those services as we can, which allows us to scale, but also to do further optimizations and integrations. But this is how the ASE is built. And Nexus Dashboard won't change this, right? Nexus Dashboard will just continue along this path of optimizing and sharing information between it, but this is the foundation of it all. So as I was mentioning, Nexus Dashboard on its most basic level is really the evolution of the application services engine UI and an underlying set of container infrastructure. But it's not just a name change, like I said, it's a whole lot more application integration, because now that we're sharing all these services, we can start to evolve and make them better. So it's more than just a new UI, but the UI is, you're going to notice, looking very similar to what you saw in the application services. But the goal here is, now that we have a common platform, container platform infrastructure, is that we can now move away from a set of independent tools and start to bring these tools closer together and present the information to the user as one super tool that's performing all of these different functions and services and solving problems, but under a common UI, using the same data lake, right? So, I mean, why should we collect telemetry about the same thing twice to give you some kind of useful result? So we're moving away from a whole bunch of different tools operating independently to these tools code bases coming together and sharing a data lake, and then presenting a more complete analysis of all of the things that each of those tools did, right? And like I said, there's a whole lot of optimizations and economies of scale we get by doing this way. But furthermore, going back to the simplify the experience, give me a common user experience, make it easy to consume. that this is what's also allowing us to do that, not just from the user level, but also the administrator level as well. So things like single sign-on, firmware updates, downloading apps from the internet, adding sites, all those kinds of things is a better. So I mentioned just before that we're bringing the code bases closer together. So we are currently executing on a plan, starting with Network Insights Resources and Network Insights Advisor, which again are two different applications. We're unifying their code bases. We're actually bringing their code bases and the development teams together under one. That's a very good thing. Now, those two apps, they solve a different set of problems, but all of those problems are related towards, operating your data center fabrics. So it makes a lot of sense that we do that. And this is work that's being done right now. So by the end of this year, we're going to combine them, and we're just going to be calling them Network Insights. And I think the current versions of NIR and NIA as separate apps, I think it's like 2.2 or 2.12 for NIA, but it's the 2. something. Well, when we bring them together under the single name of Network Insights, so it'll be both apps combined, I think we're going to call it Network Insights 5.0. I don't know why we're going to 5, but it's going to be a 5.0 number. But basically what I want to say here is all of the things that NIR and NIA have been doing for us for the last year or longer are still there with some more features added, because we still have a roadmap to add more capability, but they're just coming together under a single app. And it's going to be called Network Insights. So, I mean, this is just kind of the things that it does for a sense of completeness. I'm not going to go through all of this, but if you know Network Insights Resources and you know Network Insights Advisor, these are the use cases and the problems that they solve. None of that has changed, right? So if you have a customer already running the separate apps, this is not going to change for them other than getting better by unifying the code base. So later on in the future is after we combine Network Insights into one, we're going to then also combine in the code base of Network Insights and Network Assurance Engine. Now that's a little bit of a heavier engineering task because NAE is quite a sophisticated application that can do a lot of very interesting things. But we are working. It's going to take us a little bit longer, but we're going to bring in the code base of NAE and NII together under that same common container set of resources so that we can actually do more. So if we take a quick look at the unification roadmap, here's where we are on the left. We're basically here on the left, and these are all of the versions that are currently shipping. And again, for NXOS or ACI, they work. We're going to unify the apps here in the end of this calendar year, so in this last quarter. So NIR, NIA are coming together. I asked a couple of days ago what was the status, and I mean, don't quote me on the date because dates move, but we're trying to get this out, let's say, by end of November. So before the holiday season in December begins, this will be something that will be available. NAE still will be an independent app for now, but it'll be adding features in their 5.1 release towards the end of this year. But then planned for Q1 of next calendar year, that's when we're looking at unifying and Network Insights and NAE together. So now that they all have a common infrastructure, a common data lake, now that's sort of getting a lot closer to our final image of what Nexus Dashboard is. And then from that point on, continuing to expand and enhance what these things can do in addition to where you can run them. And that's kind of important because right now we're thinking an NXOS fabric with DCNM that you own or your customer owns, or an ACI fabric of the same. We want to start extending this into the cloud as well, right? So being able to do cloud ACI, because, our hybrid cloud story is gaining traction, with the things we can do with multi-site orchestrator in the cloud. So continuing to bring the day two operations Nexus Dashboard stuff, inclusive of the cloud as well, but that's, in the second half or towards the middle of next year is the plan. So this is just kind of a quick evolution of the services engine software release and what it brought. I'm not gonna read it to you, other than to say that we're currently shipping the 1.1.3D release for NIA, NIR, and you can actually run MSO and Network Assurance Engine there as well. But again, they're all separate applications. the next release, like I said, it won't be 1.1.4. It'll be Nexus Dashboard 2.0. So that's where the 2.0 is coming from. So I just kind of wanted to give you the evolution. So again, the things that I've been talking about, the combining of network insights, again, these are for DCNM or ACI, doesn't matter. And then Nexus Dashboard 2.1, which again is for the middle of next year or later, is being able to, again, bring more than just the physical packaging, meaning the service engine cluster is a physical cluster, right? You got to buy the hardware, but being able to look at doing things in the cloud, and even maybe services based in the cloud, so maybe telemetry as a service or network Nexus Dashboard as a service, and also some virtual options as well. We're looking forward to that in the second half of next year. So just kind of some maybe another view of what I just said. So maybe this view is a little bit simpler, but sort of if you look at the legend, it's sort of what I liked about this slide was you have the platform itself in the dark blue, and you have the applications that run there. So you can see Nexus Insights, 5.0 is the combination of NIR NIA, and then Nexus Insights 6.0 is now combining NAE, and then the green is the ecosystem as well, because something I haven't really mentioned much until now is there is quite a nice ecosystem that we currently have today with applications for DCNM and for ACI. And if you go to dcappcenter.com, it's dcappcenter.com or .cisco.com or something like that, is you can see that a lot of our partners, like, a lot of our data center partners and even our competitors have written applications that extend the capabilities of their products with our products. Like F5 has a nice application, AlgoSec has one. There's other third-party apps like that are written by independent developers that they posted there that extend the capabilities of what we can do here. And we don't want to leave that behind, because there's been a nice little growth in the number of useful apps over the last couple of years. In fact, I did a PIW on it a few months ago, but we don't want to leave those behind. So we want to make sure that we are allowing these developers to recompile their apps, or not recompile because it's not a rewrite, but to make the minor modifications of the apps to run on our container infrastructure. But this is just kind of like a different view of that. Multi-site orchestrator will always be an independent app, because it's a very different thing from Nexus Insights and NAE. These are telemetry and assurance checking apps, whereas MSO is a configuration tool, right? So they're different things. So those will always be separate, but they will all be able to run concurrently on the Nexus dashboard, in this case as independent apps. So I've talked a lot. I've kind of gotten a little bit markety, and you're probably thinking, well, I'm going to drop this call early. So I thought it would be more useful if I showed you what this stuff actually looks like. So before I finish off with the roadmap, I wanted to kind of take you through a quick demo. So let me share really quick, because I'll have to admit that when I looked at the early slides of Nexus Dashboard, I was kind of scratching my head going, well, how is this different from the ASE? So, but when you see it all working together, it actually helps. So let's share the right thing. Okay, you should see my Firefox now. Let's go full screen. This is actually Nexus Dashboard here. So in dCloud, we actually put together sort of a guided walkthrough. Now, I was thinking to try to install some of the early builds of the Nexus Dashboard software in my lab, but the builds really weren't in a state where I could show you all of the things I wanted to show you. And because, the app is still being developed, the combination of all these code bases is still underway. And I wanted to give you at least a good glimpse of what the stuff is supposed to look like when we're done. So we did sort of a guided walkthrough here. So what I'm showing you is sort of what we imagine this will look like over the next couple of months when we actually ship it, or into the next couple of quarters after that. So forgive the sort of, this is not a real demo, but this is really what it's supposed to look like. But it was the only way I could give it to you in a complete way. So of course, it's a web-based application, so you're going to go ahead and log in. Of course, we support all the roles-based access control and multiple forms of authentication. It doesn't have to be a local thing. So we're going to log into our Nexus dashboard. the first thing that we are presented with is this sort of dashboard view about the cluster itself. So we can see that the cluster is healthy. We can see other information about services and number of sites that were connected here. We have deployments and CPU, all the stuff that you would care about of the cluster hardware itself, right? So that's what you're presented with. But what we really want to do is point this thing at our fabrics and start collecting and analyzing telemetry. So what we're calling is this concept of a site. So a site is just a fabric, right? So we're going to click on sites, and this is the thing is we can add multiple fabrics here. So you can see here, these are all independent fabrics, independent locations, and we can point all of these from a single dashboard point of view and single cluster gathering this telemetry. The other thing I want to point out is you can add ACI sites, you can add DCNM sites, and then in the future, and I think we said middle of next year or first quarter of next year, be able to add cloud sites as well. So covering all the bases for whatever your customer has in one single cluster and dashboard is a very good thing. Customers don't have to buy the cluster over and over again because that was like a non-starter, right? So what we need to do is now that we've added our sites, so we've told the cluster, these are the sites we want you to collect telemetry from, we can go to the service catalog, and this is where we deploy our applications, right? One of the nice things, it's a small thing, but I have to say, for me, it's a more pleasant thing, is in the application services engine, you used to have to go to CCO or dcappcenter.cisco.com and download the app to your laptop or to a share somewhere. Then you needed to go here, then you needed to upload it, and then you needed to enable it, right? There was not that bad of a process, but there's like multiple steps. It's like, come on, it's a modern world here. So what we did was we integrated the App Store directly. So when you click on this little tab, is it knows what the current version of the application is from the App Store, and we can download it directly from here onto Nexus dashboard. So that's what I'll do here is with the Network Insights app, I'll go ahead and click download. So it'll download it directly. It will install it, then we'll enable it, and then we can actually use it. So we can see this one's been installed. So go back to services. We click on enable, just like any app, to kind of get the containers all spun up. And after a few minutes, we can it's ready to go. So we can click open. And so all of these applications, one of the other benefits we've had from sort of unifying a Nexus dashboard is single sign-on for all of these apps. What do I mean by that? Again, it's a small thing, but with the application services engine, today you had to log into the application services engine, right, with one set of credentials. Then you had to go to your apps, then you launched your app, then you had to log into that app. Now we're unifying that, saying, no, you've already logged into Nexus dashboard, you're automatically signed into the apps as well. So we can do that. So we're all single sign-on, so we can go right to our Nexus dashboard. These are all of our sites on a map that we have, right? So in this particular case, they're asking us to click on New York, and we can see information specifically about New York. How many leaves, how many spines, how many controllers, is it healthy? Are there things that I should be concerned about? Everything looks green here, but let's say I wanted to go directly into that particular site. We know it's an ACI site. We can actually cross-launch from Nexus dashboard into APIC and look at things from APIC's perspective if we desired. But we're also doing that in reverse. So in this version of ACI, which I think is 5.1, we can actually go and cross-launch back to Nexus dashboard. So like, for example, you're working in APIC and you're like, well, I have all these faults and I don't know what's going on or something's not working or whatever. And you say, well, I need to troubleshoot. Well, where are you going to start? I mean, you're going to look at the faults, but no, here you could say, well, I've got Nexus dashboard. I'll go ahead and launch Nexus dashboard and use that for my troubleshooting and get some perspective on what's going on. So, so here it looks like, in this example, our San Jose site looks like it's having some issues. The little icon has gone red. So there's something that I need to look into. So we'll go ahead and click on it. We see we have a critical anomaly score here. So we're going to scroll down and we're going to see on all of our sites. This is a site list here with more detail. We can see that looks like we have 32 anomalies over here on the right. And it's critical. So what we can do is we can click to go specifically and get a detailed view into that site, right? So the first thing is when we begin to troubleshoot this problem, we are collecting data from Network Insights Resources, Network Insights Advisor, and NAE, and then looking at all of the telemetry and all of the processing that those tools do and bringing it together under a common sort of workflow, I guess you could say. So when I click here and I say, let's say click on Analyze Alerts, there are certain functions, and what I hate about this is this little demo goes too fast. So I actually captured that because I wanted to kind of talk about that real quick. Is when you're analyzing a problem, because that's really all you care about, right? Is I have a problem, tell me what the problem is and help me fix the problem. I don't care what the tools are called, just give me information so I can do my job, right? So when you look under analyzing the alerts, certain functions are coming from different sources, but they're presented as one. So certain things were coming from all three, certain things were coming from NIA or just NIR, etc. So I took a quick screen capture of that, so you can see that all of those tools are still there, but they're not independent tools anymore. They're each doing their jobs, and the problems that they solve are different, but we're presenting the analysis of the results as a unified workflow, and that's important because it's going to make our life easier when we go to troubleshoot. So let me go back here. So one of the things that we're doing is we're not just collecting telemetry at a single moment in time. It's a constant collection and analysis over a timeline. So one of the useful things to look at is we can see that in our timeline that around, in this case, August 10th, it looked like is when our problems began. So the next natural question is, okay, what the heck was going on August 10th that is creating this problem? So we can click and get a deeper look. So by clicking there, it brings up this ability to click Analyze. So basically look at all of the data from whatever tool and analyze it as a common set of data and give me some kind of understanding. So here we can see that as it analyzed all of that stuff, we can get an impact of the problem. We can see that 50 flows are seeing policy drops, right? So that's one thing. We can also see that certain applications are suffering because of the underlying infrastructure having an issue. And this is actually coming from an integration that we have right now with App Dynamics as well, because it's important to understand the distinction between the networking infrastructure and fabric level, which is the underpinning of the things that are important in the data center, which is the applications, which is a whole other beast, right? And we have App Dynamics, which is built to analyze how applications work and interconnect. They don't necessarily care about what's happening in the infrastructure, but that's exactly what Nexus Dashboard does. And when we can integrate the information between them, I should point out App Dynamics is its own app. It's a very sophisticated app. Won't be integrated directly into the code base of Nexus Dashboard, but we can actually share information between our APIs and use it in Nexus Dashboard to give us a better understanding of the problem. So not only can we understand that this leaf or this server or this VM is having an issue, but what applications are running there, because that's going to be an important question, right? Is it the day before payday and the payroll app is now having issues? That's not what we want to hear, right? And the next thing is 20 endpoints associated in this EPG are being impacted as well. So here we can see that a very brief, it went too fast, but basically, actually it's right here at the top, it looks like the problem looks like it could be due with a contract that's having an issue here. So we can see if we scroll down this given timeline here. I know it might be kind of small text, but we have audit logs, events, faults, and alerts. These are all different sets of information, but we can correlate them together. And you can see, right? We had something changed at about what 10:12, something like that. Down here, this purple dot, and then immediately after, we recorded 23 events, 5 faults, and 1 alert. So you can see this exactly is where the problem began, right? And we can see that we have all these problems. So we want to dig deeper in and try to understand what is the problem. Now that we understand the scope and the time, let's click in and see that we had a compliance requirement violation as well. And so we want to dig a little bit deeper. So again, one of the functions of Network Assurance Engine is this thing called Policy Explorer. So we'll click on Policy Explorer, and Policy Explorer allows us to query the system and saying, between this EPG and that EPG, can they talk? How do they talk? Or what's the problem if they're having an issue? So we can see on the timeline, our problem started right about here, where this little sort of red circle is. But we can go back and say, well, it was working yesterday. It's broken today. Let's delve and figure out what changed and say, what happened. So if we click here, we can see that before the problem began, they were talking just fine, right? Meaning it could have been a situation where they weren't supposed to talk because your security policy said they shouldn't be talking. But here we can actually see that they actually should have been talking. They were working before, but after some moment in time, something changed and they stopped working. And Policy Explorer was able to tell us that. So what we can do is we can say, we realized that it was a contract change, right? Somebody changed the contract. We want to go and revert that change or change it back in time when it was working, right? We want to go back to when everything was fine. But we want to make sure if we make that change that we don't break something else along the way. That's, it's really important. So we can do a quick pre-change analysis and we can say, okay, we want to make this change to a contract, right? And are we going to break something else along the way? So we're going to make our scope global and we'll go ahead and run our pre-change analysis. This is a feature coming out of NAE. And we can see that if we decide to go ahead with this change, we haven't changed it yet, but we will resolve 48 anomalies. We will not introduce any new anomalies, right? And our anomaly count will actually go down. So this is actually a very positive thing, right? We can see that we will resolve a number of things. So we can go forward with confidence that making this change is going to fix it and not break something else along the way. But just in case we want to, let's say we have a TAC case open as well, just as a safety net, and we want to make sure that TAC is getting all of the logs and stuff so that, when they ask you for show TAC and stuff like that. So we'll go ahead and go into the log collector and decide which leaves or which logs to collect, and then we can upload them right from the tool right to our TAC case, right? You don't have to do show tech, download the zip file, go into the case tool, upload the big set of logs up to some sort of FTP site for TAC and blah blah blah. You can just do it right from the tool, right? So that's nice. So we've uploaded our logs to TAC, and then now we want to kind of understand a little bit deeper about sort of all of the pieces and parts that are making up this thing, and we want to see some more information about the applications. So going back to the site overview here of San Jose, we're going to click down in Applications. And again, based on the App Dynamics integration, so we're receiving the stream of data from App Dynamics, we can actually see some useful information here. So when you look at this picture, it probably doesn't make sense at first, but we can see here that this particular applications right here, an e-commerce application and a fintech application down here that were impacted by the problem, they were both running on a VM, and we can see that virtual machine right here in the middle. I hope you can see my mouse, right? But we can also gather information from the hypervisor, so from vCenter directly, and we can understand which data store this VM is using. We can understand which networks it's connected to. It looks like this is connected to 2 different port groups. We have information about which ESX host that this particular virtual machine is running on, and there's a little green dot, which means that the host is not having a problem. It's the VM and the applications on the VM that are suffering the problem. Furthermore, we can see information about other VMs that are running concurrently on this host, because maybe we need to make a decision, like maybe we need to patch the ESX host and what else will be impacted. And then we can actually see which leaf in the ACI fabric or the DCNM fabric this particular ESX host is connected to. We can see all of these layers in one view. And of course, we can click and reorganize this view to center on, let's say, the data store or the leaf or something like that. But this is really, to me, having to troubleshoot things from time to time in my ACI fabric, having a view like this that kind of presents all of the interconnected pieces and parts, and then the ability to collect telemetry from most of that, it helps me get to the end result much quicker than I would if I had to do all of this stuff manually, right? So I click anywhere here. So that's really kind of the quick interactive overview. If you want to run through this yourself, it's actually on dCloud, so it's publicly available. So you can kind of take your time and kind of go through it, or maybe use it with your with your customers if they're interested in hearing about Nexus Dashboard. So that's here. It's called the guided demo version 1. So that was the quick demo. I hope you found it useful. Let's quickly finish up with a little bit of roadmap, and then we'll call it a day. At least we will call it a morning for me. So here's where we are with NIR, NIA as separate apps here, and you can just see some information about certain features, scale, which platforms we support. Like if you're running a DCNM NX West Fabric, we also support the 3K and 7K. Of course, ACI is only 9K, but you can see some information here. These are all shipping now as separate apps, but then they'll come together as Nexus Insights 5.0, probably hoping for the end of November. And then beyond that, taking Nexus Insights 5.0, here's the features and capabilities and scale that we are committed to deliver in that particular release. There's a couple of new features that we're adding to the combination of these two apps based on our roadmap there. But then that is going to evolve into Nexus Insights 6.0, which is the combination of Network Insights and NAE together, and that's again probably first or second quarter of next year. If we just look at the standalone independent and network assurance engine release, so 5.0 is shipping today. So this is something that you can download right now as 3 virtual machines and get going. And these are all of the features that we brought in 5.0. Probably the big one here is the fact that we added the ability to do some analysis of NXOS fabrics, because if you have played with NAE before, it was strictly for ACI, and now that is spreading its wings and covering both. They say phase 1 because we're not doing everything for NXOS yet, but this will come in future phases. We'll add more and more capability. So 5.1 release, which is committed again for the fourth quarter of this calendar year. I think the important thing here, and this is probably something I get asked a lot, is can NAE do multi-site? And today it can't. I mean, you can have 2 different MSO, or not MSO, but can NAE, you would have 2 different installations of NAE, 1 for each site if you had 2 sites, right? If you had 3 sites, you would have 3. That's not a good scale proposition, right? But what we would like to do is be able to gather and analyze information from MSO about multiple sites. So NAE 5.1 begins a journey. So again, it's a phased journey there, but being able to now collect some information and analyze something about a multi-site environment is coming in 5.1. Other things like PBR, policy-based redirect, which is my favorite feature in ACI, and some other things as well are coming in the 5.1 release in a few months. So that's kind of the quick roadmap of those applications. In terms of the economics of all of this, this is all going to be, and in fact, it's a continuation of, it's a subscription software license model. So we have the tiered thing. I won't bore you to death with the different tiers and what they get you, but you can buy Essentials or Advantage tiers, and this is what they get you inside the gray box, and then you can add on the Day 2 operations licenses to get all of the stuff I just showed you. Or you can go for a higher tier like Premier, which kind of includes everything. So everything Advantage has plus Day 2 operations, like for one low price, right? Our licensing process, ordering process, and I'm sure that those of you who have tried to order, like our Day 2 operations, have probably suffered like I have. And we've collected a lot of feedback, a lot of good feedback, and we actually have taken that to heart. So I wanted to kind of point out a couple of nice changes, is that we want to make our licensing simpler. And because we're unifying all of these applications, like it's sort of changing, it's reducing the number of licenses that you need to buy. So the one thing here I want to point out is this middle point is part of the unification, the network assurance engine, it's a virtual appliance. And before this Nexus dashboard, you had to buy the license for the software itself, and then you had to buy a per leaf license for every leaf that you wanted to use it with, right? And there was all kinds of things you had to click this and order that, and is it a greenfield or brownfield? The important thing is you don't need to order the appliance license anymore. It's included, so don't order it. Don't pay us money that we don't deserve. I mean, NAE is a great app, don't get me wrong, but it's all just, you just buy the Leaf license going forward. You don't have to buy the orchestrator and this and that. It's one license. You say, look, I want to use Nexus Dashboard because I like the feature set of NAE among others. Just got to buy the Leaf license, right? This is for all of Nexus Dashboard. So, right. So you either buy the Premier or you buy the lower tier plus the Day 2 Ops add-on license. I also heard that this is true of multi-site orchestrator. So if I go back here, if you buy the Advantage license, you automatically get the MSO software. Now that's a small change because the way we used to do it is you needed to buy the Advantage Leaf license and a one-time MSO cost for the software, right? So now that's gone away, and you just buy the Leaf license. So hopefully you will agree that we've simplified the licensing. We're working towards, making it as easy to order and as less confusing as possible. That English makes sense, I guess. But all I'm saying is it's getting better, and that's a very good thing for the people who have to process the orders and when you build the bombs and all of that kind of stuff. So good news, right? So I have the success kid meme up there going, yes, they finally heard us, right? So that's really coming to the end of my presentation. What is Nexus Dashboard? It's the coming together of all the apps that you know and love, but in a better and more unified way, easier to consume, common data lake, common underlying container infrastructure, better experience, integrated workflows. All of that stuff is coming together, and that's what we're calling Nexus Dashboard. So I hope that cements it clearly in your mind where we're taking this Day 2 operations and the name change and what that actually means. So I will stop sharing now and ask if there are any questions, because I think we have a few minutes for questions just in case.
Yeah, okay. Joe, there are a number of questions in the panel. Do you want me to go through them?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer these. I'm going to call you out by name and then answer these verbally. So James Williamson asks, does that mean that there will no longer be a requirement to connect the dashboard cluster directly to the fabric, meaning it will be able to support multiple fabrics? James, you are exactly correct, because remember, one of the drivers for Nexus Dashboard was the ability to collect from multiple sites. And what he's mentioning is the earlier or the current version of Application Services Engine, or like 1.1.2, you had to connect it directly to your ACI fabric. Like it had to be connected to a leaf to get the telemetry. Well, in 1.1.3, which is the current release of the Application Services Engine, we moved away from that. And the reason why is we wanted to make it easy to collect telemetry from multiple different fabrics to the same cluster. So the answer to your question is absolutely yes. So if you care about the architecture, because it sounds like you know what you're talking about with that question, is all you need to do is create a layer 3 out from your in-band management VRF to some switch, any switch where your ASE cluster or your Nexus Dashboard cluster is connected. And as long as you have reachability to those in-band subnets, because that's how we collect the hardware telemetry, you're good to go. So the cluster could be in London, and your data center it's analyzing could be in Manchester or Dublin, for that matter, and we can do that. They don't have to be directly connected anymore, and you can collect from multiple different fabrics at the same time to the same cluster. So I'm going to mark that one verbal. So Chandra is asking, would there be any virtual version for us to play without having the appliance, or will there be an option to install Nexus Dashboard on a single UCS C-Series server for trying out the product? That's a good question. Yes, Chandra, the answer is yes, because I will tell you, the Cisco SE and Architect people have the exact same requirement. In fact, we do too in our VU. And the answer is absolutely yes. There will be an OVA of this. In fact, just because, Chandra, I like you, so let me share something real quick with you just to prove. Really quick. One of my colleagues, if you know Matthias in Germany, actually, he's one of the TMEs. Did I close it? Where did it go? There it is. Okay, so he actually installed Nexus Dashboard in his environment, and I noticed when I was looking at his dashboard, it only had one node, and I'm thinking, I thought we needed 3. And when I think I clicked into the node and I see, where was I clicking? Cluster configuration. I noticed he's running the OVA. So we have an OVA. It's not for public consumption yet because they're working on optimizing it and making it suitable to run on less memory, etc. But we're going to have a version only for demo, not for production. So I want to be clear on that. It's only going to be for people like you and me to show a demonstration of it, because the thing is a lot of the telemetry and analysis behind the scenes, pretty heavy duty machine learning and analysis. So it does require some hardware with some power behind it to do it well. So the OVA will not be used for production, but definitely for demo. And so there's that. So Francisco says, how does Nexus dashboard cope with Intersight? I thought Intersight would be the only dashboard at the end. Probably my bad. We are working on further integration with Intersight. So the current integration that we have right now is under the functions that Network Insights Advisor was providing. One of the things that it does, and I didn't show in the demo, but it can do a bug scrub on your fabric. So you can point it to your fabric and have it do an analysis of your hardware platform, your version, the features you have turned on, and then tell me, do I have any bugs for my specific environment? I really like that tool. And one of the ways that we keep that current is once every 24 hours, Network Insights Advisor, or now Nexus Dashboard, calls to a special TAC database where we keep the fingerprints or the signatures of all the bugs and PCerts and alerts. It downloads that signature and then has it current every 24 hours. So we do that using Intersight actually right now. So TAC publishes the bug or PCert database to Intersight. Nexus Dashboard calls Intersight and says, give me the latest. You don't even need an Intersight license for that to work. The next thing is we are working on some tighter integration with Insight, but here's the challenge, and I hope you can see where we're coming from, is with the amounts and speed of the telemetry that we're collecting from the fabric can be quite voluminous, I guess that's a word. If we were to ship all of that stuff to Intersight, the cost of the network transit into the cloud where Intersight runs would be enormous. Right, it would be enormous, right? And so there's something to be said for doing telemetry collection and analysis as close to the source as you can. That's not to say we won't present our results to Intersight in the future, but we won't be shipping telemetry to Intersight because it doesn't make sense. So I hope that's good. So I will answer that one. I'm going to go a little bit long. You're free to drop. What about multi-pod, multi-site? We need application service engine. Do we need ASE, Nexus Dashboard per pod or site? No. That's the thing, is one of the benefits of unifying it under Nexus Dashboard is you can have multiple pods or multiple sites and shipping your telemetry for analysis to a single cluster. So, getting the benefit of that powerful hardware for more than one site. So it's good news for you. That's Cesari. I'm sorry, I can't say your name. I apologize for that. Charlie is asking, hi Charlie, can you elaborate on the integrations with AppD a little bit further? For example, will there be visualization showing the underpinning infrastructure between two AppD nodes? Charlie, I don't know, but I mean the integration that as it stands today seems to be a fairly free-flowing API, so the information is there. So it's technically going to be possible. How we're going to do that, I don't have a definitive answer for you, and I apologize, but maybe we could follow up with an email thread, or I'm sure I'll see you at the cab, or hear you at the cab because it'll be virtual. So Charlie is asking again. Oh, he just said, ignore my AppD question. I just got answered. Okay. Charlie's also asking, will NAE extend to multi-cloud deployments? If so, would that extend into Nexus Dashboard? Yes. So the goal here, and this is a roadmap item for middle of next year, is to be able to extend the newly combined code base of all of this Nexus Insights and NAE, extending it also to the cloud, so Cloud APIC, right? So I want to point out that you have to have Cloud APIC, so it's not just the cloud by itself, but Cloud APIC. we will be able to begin collecting telemetry there. It would be interesting to be able, because we are also talking about Nexus dashboard as a service, meaning we deploy a Nexus dashboard in the cloud and somehow get telemetry from your native cloud stuff there. I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm really fuzzy on the details. I just know it's being certainly discussed as a worthy opportunity. So, okay, ignore that one. Is the dashboard free of charge? David Atherton, no, the dashboard itself will be free, right? I mean, the software, but you have to get the Leaf license either by ordering the Premier tier license, which gives you everything, or buying a lower tier and then the Day 2 Ops or the Nexus dashboard Day 2 Ops license add-on to get the telemetry part. So ultimately, the solution itself is not free, but we're not charging you a separate cost for the software itself, right? It's basically the operating system or the underpinning of the container infrastructure running on the hardware itself. Is it Cisco year or 6.0, Mohammed? When I say, I think what you're asking, he said, is it 6.0 is targeted for Cisco year Q1? No, when you see Q1 CY21, that's calendar year, so that's following the normal calendar that the whole world uses. If you see us write Q1 FY21, that means fiscal year, and that means the Cisco calendar, because our year starts in August and goes all the way to the end of the next July. So I mean the calendar year, right, Mohammed? So I hope I've got you on that one. Let's go down here. That is nice, the licensing. I like it. I'm glad because, trust me, we've had internal conversations to make this a better thing, and I'm very, very glad that we're making it better. Is it already in place? They're coming. I actually saw the licensing guide for September 2020. I think it's publicly posted. In fact, yeah, I'm going to share something real quick. Sorry. I'll show you the guide that I have. It was this is for 2020, but it's a quick ordering guide, a simplified ordering guide. Only 3 pages, right? Pretty good, or 4 pages. I think this is public now, right? This should be public because they put together like a proper ordering guide, right? You can find this stuff in CCW. So I would like to believe that it's currently available right now. This is why I say don't pay the licenses from the past, because you don't necessarily need to spend that money, because it's all bundled into the Leaf licenses as well. Okay, we answered that one, Mohammed. Alfred is saying, would it be possible to provide Nexus dashboard for different customers in an as-a-service fashion? That's the idea we're kicking around right now. What it will look like, I can't really give you a lot of details, but that is something that we're working on. Because that would actually be nice for you as a managed service offering to your customers to say, hey, I know how this stuff works. I can analyze it for you, and you pay me a fee. So that would be an ideal outcome for us, and so we're taking it seriously. Carlos Galvez Rivera is saying, I missed the answer for this. Would there be any virtual version for us to play? The answer is yes. I would like to set up in the lab. So there's going to be an OVA. It's not available yet, but it will probably be available at the end of November. Limited capability because it is a virtual machine, and you only need one of them, but it's only going to be for demos, not for production. Mohammed is asking again, does the SE require in-band, or will it be able to go with out-of-band? So in a nutshell, both. So it depends on the app we're talking about. If we're talking about Network Insights or Nexus Insights or NAE, Nexus Insights, just Nexus Insights, we collect the telemetry from the ASIC, and we need to do that in-band because it's potentially a lot of data. So we need to do that in-band. We cannot get that from the RJ45 gig management port in the back, right? It's not possible. So we do it in-band. If you're talking about NAE or MSO, they use out-of-band. So when we deploy our OVA or our ND cluster, it has an out-of-band interface for you to go to your web browser, but that's also the same interface we use for MSO and NAE. And then anything telemetry from the ASIC is going to use another connection, a couple of 10 gig connections that are accessible to the in-band networks of ACI or DCNN. It does not have to be directly connected to the Leaf. It can be somewhere else routed so many hops away, which is a good thing because now we can do multiple sites. So I hope that answers that question. You are welcome, Mohammed. Can we have a link to the ordering guide, please, David? I don't have the link. I saw it in an internal email. I haven't searched for it, but I guess we can look and just, if you search for Cisco Day 2 Operations Solution Ordering Guide, something will probably come up. I apologize. I should have had that link, but I think search for that, and you should be able to find it. If not, I mean, it's coming soon, right? It's going to be any day now. So that's the last of the questions. Got 6 minutes over. Thanks everybody for staying. And that's really it for me.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks a lot. Fantastic session. I hope you guys like it. Let me just stop recording now, and I will wrap up on the housekeeping things and reminders for the October sessions. Okay, so